her originally as Congregational leader of the Sisters of Mercy from 2009 to 2021. She served as a member of the guiding team for Mercy International reflection process and the Mercy Global Presence process that took.
Just take a few moments just to gaze into this image of recognizing in the Christian tradition, we are in the time of Lent. In the Jewish tradition, we are leading up to Passover. But in this image, you have the cosmos and the cross, the signs of hope and life, and signs of suffering and pain. Each one of you are part of this conversation today because you've chosen to give more deeply to the Sisters of Providence through the mission, the 4 services. So in the face of that commitment, you are bringing God's gift of providence into the world, to humans and other than humans, into the whole of the cosmos in a new way. And all the struggle of doing that and all the challenge of doing that in itself is gift. And so, Sister Annette, if you would lead us in the welcome.
The season of Lent calls us to journey along the edge, to anticipate that final trip to Jerusalem. Lent calls us to the cutting edge, when the wheat falls to the ground and new life comes forth. Lent not only calls us to give up something, but also invites us to participate in the mystery of God with us. By your grace, call us from grief into gladness, despair into hope, estrangement into right relations with each other and with the earth.
The reading from Isaiah, Sister Nancy.
No os acordéis de las cosas pasadas, ni consideréis las cosas antiguas. Voy a hacer una cosa nueva. Ahora brota. ¿No lo percibís?
Do you not perceive it? Isaiah 43, 18 to 29.
Ten piedad de mí, oh Dios, según
Have mercy on me, O God, according to your steadfast love, according to your abundant mercy, blot out my transgressions. Wash me thoroughly from my iniquity and cleanse me from my sin. Create in me a clean heart, O God, and put a new and right spirit within me.
Confidence in God and peace at the foot of the cross. Blessed Emily Gemna.
Statement of faith. We believe that our lives are held within the encircling love of God, who knows our names and recognizes our deepest needs. We believe that Christ is the divine child of the living God, and that his grace is like living waters that can never be exhausted. We believe in the birthing, renewing, enabling Spirit of God, who yearns over our welfare as a mother yearns for her child. We believe that God is in the arid desert as well as in green pastures, and that hard times and disciplines are also loving gifts. We believe that our journey has a purpose and a destination, and that our path leads to a human glory we cannot yet imagine. We believe that in the church we are fellow pilgrims on the road, and that we are called to love one another as God loves us. This is our faith, and we are humbled to profess it in Jesus the Christ. Amen.
Letanía de la Alianza. En los días de Noé,
Litany of the Covenant. In the days of Noah, God placed a rainbow in the sky as the sign of a covenant of God's love for all the earth.
In the colors of the light, we see the grace of God. Continue.
en los días de Moisés, las
In the
palabras
days of Moses, the words of God were written on tablets of stone as the sign of a covenant between God and all of God's people.
Tablets of
Tablets of stone, we see the sign of God's hope for each to live in peace with God and neighbor.
en los días del profeta.
In the days of the prophet, God promised to place a new covenant in our hearts.
In the living body of Christ, we see the sign of God's promise among us. And so in this Lenten time, we make a commitment. Juan, I think you're muted.
Okay. Renoncer aux mots durs, utiliser des mots généreux.
Give up harsh words, use generous ones. Give up unhappiness, take up gratitude. Give up anger, take up gentleness and patience. Give up pessimism, take up hope and optimism. Give up worrying, take up trust in God. Give up complaining. Value what you have. Give up stress. Take up prayer. Give up judging others. Discover Jesus within them. Give up sorrow and bitterness. Fill your heart with joy. Give up selfishness. Take up compassion for others. Give up being unforgiving. Learn reconciliation. Give up words. Fill yourself with silence and listen to others.
L'Amérique latine, publié par le site CAFOD.
So I invite you now just to hear the words that have been spoken and see if there's one phrase or one word that touches you in a special way. So just think of the words here, again, the words that have been spoken. Is there one phrase here or one image here that touches you especially this afternoon? And Karen, would you give us the blessing?
May the dust of the wilderness Hold our footprints lovingly, shaped as they are by your hurt, for dust remembers. May the journey into wilderness unfold honestly, for honesty is the gift your soul recognizes as you. May your time in this wilderness be shaped by space rather than minutes, so there is time enough for all of you. May the stones in this wilderness cry out your name loudly, that your spirit recognizes the voice that has been calling you always. And may you know this wilderness has been expecting you, and you find between the stones a promise growing. Amen.
And let us look at this last image from Isaiah. I am about to do a new thing. Now it springs forth. Do you not perceive it? So see in this image the work that you're doing right now with Providence, this special work that you are doing. I am about to do a new thing. Now it springs forth. Do you not perceive it? So Mark, I'll just put up our slides. I think we'll show our slides, whatever language you're speaking, we'll show the slides in. So Mark, you're beginning.
So do we have, I don't have the list right in front of me, but so we have Sister, okay, thank you. We have Sister Annette has been our convener, and Sister Alba Letelier has been helping put together a lot of our information. She was from Chile, she's now in Peru. Sister Marcia Gatica from El Salvador. I mentioned Sister Annette, Sister Hortensia from Haiti, Pat Kittrick from Vermont, and myself. So that's the group. How'd I do? That's okay.
So the group, I think Mark has had the 6 meetings and supported by the interpreters and Guy and Sylvia, who've been here with us. Okay. So who's picking up on the context for the mission?
I don't have the names of who had.
Si quieren los digo yo.
I will talk about it, the service of mission, the context. Marcia? All right. The context of the Congregational Mission Service, we ask all of us to discover Jesus Christ, particularly those who are suffering, at the service of the works of compassion, and is a sign of hope and resurrection in the world of today. Various circles of governance have at their purpose to facilitate communication, participation, and collaboration in order to live the mission in an attitude of communion and interdependence among the various entities, and to generate enthusiasm for the mission of the congregation. In this way, true discipleship becomes a reality. Constitution 8182.
So Marcia, will you continue on the vision and purpose?
Ok. Nuestra visión y propósito es
Our vision and our objective is to facilitate the congregations and the sisters' discernment of how to embody the Providence mission in responses to external needs, both existing and emerging, while taking into account internal needs that may require a congregational response. On the other hand, to ensure that the Providence mission remains alive and active among the members of the congregation, the Providence associates, the collaborators, and the church. Also, to protect, promote, and embody the Providence mission to meet existing and emerging internal and external needs.
And then the next piece is the mandate. Alba?
Sí, el mandato nuestro.
Yes, the mandate is made up of 7 points, and we have grouped them in a more common ones. So first points 1 to 7 were taken from the same field to say it. Alba. Oh, the French interpreter, Spanish interpreter was speaking the French channel. Are we okay now? So, point number 1 of our mandate tells us that we have to help find creative and unified responses to emerging and unmet needs. For example, if sisters have an innovative initiative or project that responds to emerging needs, they can send it to the mission service team for dialogue and discernment. Point number 2 tells us that we need to participate at the intercongregational level in various committees on social justice and mission issues, as well as associations such as LCWR, UISG, the Conference of Religious Congregations in the United States, then the International Union of General Superiors, the CRC, the Conference of Religious Communities in Canada, Unanima International, and WPC, Women of Province and Collaboration, and JPIC. And I want to add here that we also talked about each of the countries in which we are, the various Conference of Religious in Haiti, Salvador, Chile, Philippines. And other local committees that deal with social issues. Each team member may choose the association according to her preference. Then number 7 of the mandate also talks about that to use the mission agendas directory as a guide and update it. Then we go on to the Congregational Mission Service, the points 2 and 3 of the mandate. Invite us or call us to stimulate personal reflection, contemplative dialogue, and conversations about spirituality and the Providence values by planning continuing formation programs, retreats, readings, webinars, and in-person meetings when possible. Another sub-point in this mandate is providing an integral understanding of the Providence spirituality within the ministries. And then point 3, to encourage the promotion and integration of the Providence spirituality within the congregation among the associates and the staff of the various works of the congregation. And finally, we have points 4 and 5 who tell us that we have to help organize interprovincial, interregional conversations and group meetings that provide opportunities to share about ministries and emerging critical social issues such as systemic racism, nonviolence, discrimination, new forms of poverty, etc. There are many themes here, and how providence can be promoted in these situations. How we can see it, how we can reflect about that and act. And then point 5, collaborate with provincial or regional leaders to promote and support a mission awareness of social or emerging issues in their respective regions, as well as in developing countries.
Thank you, Alba. So Pat, I think you're going to tell us now what our plan is for number 2, 3, 4, and 5, which we're doing as a group. You're on mute, Pat. You're on mute.
Thank you. So as a process, we will do personal, communal, and global contemplation on mission. We will have mission re-imaged in relationship to the changing realities, and recognize that each one of us as a missionary disciple. There'll be encouragement and strengthening of each one in their mission. The chapter theme, in a surge of hope, let the new life spring forth, and that will be important to all that we're doing. Link with synod on synodality, communion, participation, and mission. We will look at diverse ways of reflection, not using just silence and words, but using art, poetry, music, tapestry, and whatever speaks to us, nature. We will recognize our internationality, interculturality, intergenerationality, and our interdependence as part of all the work that we do. And we will be calling forth and encouraging creative and unified responses to emerging and unmet needs.
And this just shows the image for your chapter coming up with the beautiful motto logo, in surge of hope, let new life spring forth. And then the synod, which the process we're part of now, with its focus on communion, participation, and mission. So then we have a specific process related to the mandate, again, numbers 2, 3, 4, and 5, that we want to propose to, that we're going to take part in. Annette, I don't remember who was going to do this section. Maybe I can pick it up then, because I'm also part of the group. We said one thing that we might look at as a committee is an 18-month process beginning in September, go to September to November and March to June. So we avoid summer in the Northern Hemisphere and in the Southern Hemisphere. So it would be over a course of this year, next year, and the following year. Our committee would prepare guides, reflection guides. We would ask people to use these guides personally and in small groups. And then we would, from time to time, have a Zoom link across the regions, across the provinces. And obviously, we could only do that in collaboration with the provincial leadership teams. We still have to think through ways to gather feedback from those reflections. And then we would feed that back to the whole congregation and to colleagues in ministry. In those themes that we're talking about, so we're talking about over that 18-month period, we would use readings from scripture and the holy books of other traditions, not just the Jews and the Christians, but the Quran and on other holy books. We would also look to our founding wisdom figures. So to Emily Gamla, to Bishop Bourget, to Mother Joseph, to Mother Bernarda. We would integrate conversation around ministry related to people who are poor and suffering, and ministry related to care for our common home. We would also be sensitive to the fact that, as Patricia said earlier, every single member of the community, whether you're young and active or sick and elderly, is in mission. We would look at connections between the chapter orientations, which will have come out by then, and the synod. And as Alba said earlier, we will attend to the critical social issues like systemic racism, nonviolence, discrimination, new forms of poverty, and the climate emergency. So that's the process that we're looking towards in terms of our mandate number 2, 3, 4, and 5. Mandate number 1 talked about how can we respond where there's a specific recommendation coming forward about meeting emerging or unmet needs. We said we need to embed that idea in our process that I just mentioned to encourage people to think about new ways, more creative ways of responding to those unmet needs. We would, in that process, also help people to identify where those needs are, where they live. How is systemic racism very real where you live? What is the violence that you're seeing where you live? Where is there discrimination? And so are there other ways of responding to that in your reality? And then if a sister or a group of sisters really feels a call to a very new ministry in this area, they can use our committee as a group to help them discern a way forward. With respect to number 6, and Alba already mentioned this, the names we were given weren't complete. So we want to make sure that the religious conferences, not only in Canada and the United States, but also in Chile, in El Salvador, in the Philippines, and in Latin America, be included. And in terms of participating in these groups, we think the benefit of doing that is that you bring back advice to the mission service about new thinking around mission, that we're able to share the new thinking with the whole congregation, but also that our presence on any of those groups brings wisdom that comes from the Sisters of Providence. And then with respect to number 7, the directory that we have now has been somewhat updated in the 2014 guidelines for cross-cultural experiences, and the new chapter in the Congregational Initial Formation Directory, speaking to the same issue. So once we ourselves as a group feel we have a better understanding of mission in the congregation at this point in our history, then we will update the document in light of our new understanding and the 2 updates that have already come. And our final slide is simply to say, not simply, profoundly, to say from your constitutions, the mission of the congregation is to proclaim Providence as the loving presence of God active in us and through us, watchful over the created universe and attentive to the needs of all. We also proclaim the compassion of the Mother of Sorrows in her intimate participation in the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus. We live these mysteries primarily by our compassionate love of those who are poor.
Gracias, hermana Elizabeth. Queremos agradecer esta oportunidad de poder...
Thank you, Sister Elizabeth. We'd like to thank, we feel that these congressional services really give us light and life. And we're initiating this process, and I will invite Juan Francisco so that he can introduce this period that we used to form ourselves as a team. So, sisters, our presentation will cover the following themes. The Congregational Communication Service Team, the essential aspects of the mandate given to us, progress and proposals developed to date by the team, examples of the current work of communications in the entities, collaborative work in communications, and future efforts for both the medium and long term. Regarding the first topic, the Congregational Communication Service team is composed of the following persons. Sister Margarete St. John recently completed a 4-year term as Provincial Council Secretary for the Holy Angels Province. She is now on a short 3-month sabbatical. Nicole Schonberger is the administrative assistant for the Provincial Administration of Holy Angels Province. She is responsible for the distribution of communication within the province. She collaborates to enhance the life of the sisters while working to live out the mission. Juan Francisco Taipa is in charge of communications and graphic design for the Bernardo Marin province. He works in the provincial administration in Santiago, Chile. Christina Raxi works at the provincial administration of the Émilie-Gamelin province in Montreal since 2005 as the provincial superior's administrative assistant. In 2020, she assumed responsibilities for virtual communications for the province. Nadia Bertolucci works at the Providence International Center in Montreal as a communications agent. She is part of a dynamic team that strives to promote the mission of the Providence family everywhere it reaches and beyond. Steve Pehanich joined the Mother Joseph Province as communication manager in late 2021. His earlier roles include 16 years as the Director of Communications and Advocacy for the California Catholic Conference and 10 years as Executive Director of the Society of St. Vincent de Paul in Santa Clara County. The sister of the General Leadership Team is Sister Nancy Arevalo, responsible for the Communications Office of the International Center at the service of the Providence Mission. As a team, we haven't been able to meet periodically for 1 or 2 days each month since October 2021, except in January 2022, when we participated in a webinar on communication organized by the International Union of General Superiors. Our meetings are held via Zoom with interpretation in English and Spanish.
So the next speaker to speak to the mandate.
Veuillez m'excuser, c'est moi, c'est Christina. Alors, concernant...
Sorry, it's me, Christina. Now, regarding the essential aspects of the mandate that was given to us, we would like to share with you some points. First of all, we were asked to take into consideration the Constitution's number 49, which tells us that The means of social communication provide for cultural, spiritual, and social enrichment. They enable us to discern better the needs of the church and the world. When used prudently and thoughtfully, they can become particularly important for continuing formation, transmitting gospel values, and sharing our life and experiences with others. The following was the vision shared with us in the mandate: to strengthen the culture of communication in all the circles, to ensure unity and fluidity in the languages used by the congregation, to live our charism and mission in a creative way, to respond to the emerging needs of the world in which we live and which we are called to serve. The mandate requires that we accomplish specifically the following tasks. First of all, in a spirit of contemplative listening, dialogue, and discernment, a draft of a plan that includes dialogues within the service team and with the communication services of the provinces in order to hear about the current realities in the provinces, and in-depth conversations that identify the principal values and expectations of this congregational service. Then we were asked to identify commonalities between and among communication services and to describe the various steps for the implementation of the plan for the congregational communication services. Number 4 was to facilitate an ongoing formation plan as the service is being implemented and as needed in order to ensure access to the platforms and tools necessary to promote our Providence mission, participation of all, ensuring that no one feels isolated or excluded, accessibility and equality in the use of the different means of communication, and access to information by all the sisters, the Providence family, and society, according to the different realities and needs of the people.
De travailler en collaboration et en interdépendance avec les différents services.
We were asked to work in collaboration. You were asked to work in collaboration. And number 6, we were asked to finish working on the directory, the congregational directory, and to complete it, and to develop and implement a congregational communication service.
As a team, to date, we have already made progress in establishing a proposal for the mission of the Congregational Communication Service, an outline of values and needs of this service, and suggested general objectives and specific objectives. Our mission proposal for the Congregational Communication Service is as follows. Inspired by Emily, Bernarda, and Joseph, the Congregational Communication Service promotes, informs, and communicates Providence life, ministry, and mission to all of the Providence family and society. In doing so, we advance the common good, solidarity, peace, and evangelization. The values we propose for this service are respecting the core values of the congregation: humility, simplicity, charity, listening, discernment, and unity. Striving to live these qualities in all our works and relationships: transparency, collaboration, inclusion, trust, appreciation, creativity, openness and willingness, accuracy, flexibility, and adapting and learning. The needs we broadly identified for this service are as follows. promoting openness, flexibility, and willingness to collaborate and listen, recognizing the need to ask for help, recognizing the changing reality of the congregation and reading the signs of the time, encouraging appreciation and respect for all, establishing boundaries, priorities, accuracy, and promoting creativity in communication, developing swiftness of communication, providing all communication in a culturally and linguistically sensitive manner for French, Spanish, and English, recognizing and valuing the past, present, and future of the congregation, the sisters, and the Providence family, including the Congregational Communication Service as a consultant and a contributor in strategic planning to increase the speed and effectiveness of all communications efforts. As a proposal for the objective of this service, we consider the following: to promote and to nurture the mission and unity in the congregation through communication. As specific objectives, we propose to promote understanding, listening, and dialogue between the sisters, companions, associates, staff, and collaborators, to create and to share an ongoing communication formation plan, to collaborate creatively in the expansion of the Providence mission in today's world, to make known the mission and work of the great Providence women, to complete and to implement the communications directory, and to update it as required.
Maintenant, nous aimerions partager avec vous certaines des tâches que les
Now
bureaux
we'd like to share with you some of the tasks that the Communications Office currently do. It's a few examples. We won't be covering everything of what each team does. Amongst several of the tasks, the Communications Office of the International Providence Center publishes Providence Missive, as well as the Associates and Providence Life. A sister and associate of Providence Sisters is invited to reflect on the Gospel, the Sunday Gospel, through prayer and reflection that is sent through email on the website and on Facebook. Sisters of Providence are interviewed on history and on current events, and important events are available on YouTube. Many on our website as Pearls of Providence. Now, the Mother Joseph Province produces Caritas, a trimestral publication of the Providence family in the province. And then the personnel meets, updates, and produces as well information for social networks. They also have vocational, brochure, stickers, and other material. The Communications Office of this province contributes to special projects all throughout the year, and this services during the Jubilee year, as well as articles for the newspaper. The Communications Office of the province also helps by sending congregational information produced by the Provincial Superior and distributed to the sisters of the province and the congregation. They distribute it to the sisters in the province. They coordinate as well celebrations for the Jubilee, as well as regarding funerals or any other events, and prepare brochures or handouts for each of those events. And they also do live streaming of funerals and other events within the province. They also have audiovisual installations or technical support for meetings. The Emily Gamlin Province Communications Office Some retired just before the pandemic, and the provincial administration is trying to rebuild the current website, as well as other communication tools. And because they're close to the general administration, and the communication teams does a lot of work, so the Emily Gamlin province wants to avoid duplicating information or redundancy. The communications office, Bernardo Morin Province Communications Office, constantly updates their website as well as their Facebook presence. They collaborate in producing brochures, posters, invitations, calendars, and also distribution lists, banners, videos produced for the provincial leadership as well as for the other offices of the province. The provincial newsletter is distributed to the sisters and to the personnel in the different works. They gather news from the provincial house and local communities. In this collaborative work, we want to highlight collaboration and the importance of it in our work. Our current work as communicators could not be successful without the collaboration we receive from sisters, associates, staff, other collaborators, and other offices of communication as well. The collaborative work, we breathe and live it every day. The essence of our work is collaboration. And we are convinced that the unity of the congregation cannot happen without communication. And that means interdependence, and for that we need to be communicating adequately. The communication is more than just an exchange of information. It is a fluid, back and forth, mutuality, ongoing, permanent conversation. And examples of collaborative work amongst the International Providence Center and all the offices. We can see Missive, Providence Missive, is the fruit of all the different provinces, sisters from all of the provinces who collaborate with their reflections, as well as the different communications offices who send the most important news for their publication. And for Providence Live, through all the sisters of the congregation receive there's collaboration amongst the different international center and the general leadership. For those special numbers, there's also been collaboration with the Providence Archives of the International Center, the archives of the different Bernardo Morin Province, the Office for the Cause of Emily Gamlin. Now, for the Bernardo Morin Province, there's collaboration from sisters, other offices, as well as all of the different works in Chile. The communication office of Bernardo Morin also has service of graphic design and communication, audiovisual support for the cause of beatification of Mother Bernardo Morin, as well as the spiritual center Providence in the province. Now, the Communication Office of Holy Angels collaborates with sisters, archive, staff, in order for photos, for creating posters, bulletins regarding jubilees, vocations, and formation. And for more, there is ongoing collaboration amongst this office as well as the provincial leadership team. While Echoes of the Province, Emily Gamlin is a new publication that is printed as needed by the province and sent out to the other provinces. The sisters and the staff of the Emily Gamlin staff collaborate in elaborating this document. this publication. Another example is the personnel from the Mother Joseph Province Communication collaborated with the General Council, with experts, and with other associates and organizations to come up with a crisis communication plan, preparing for the unexpected. And this plan establishes who will gather when there is a crisis, what each different department will take on, and what are the criteria that need to be followed or the parameters in order to respond to the different media or to the public in general. Should there be a crisis that can happen anywhere, no one is exempt from that possibility. The plan looks to establish that the individuals be treated fairly and what the impact would be on the reputation of the province as well, and that be minimized or completely eradicated. As far as the collaborative work, our dream is that the Service of Communications can act as a producer of communications, a consultant, in order to be able to create the best material produced for all the different areas that might be needed. And that's also the congregational services that are included. And thinking that this collaboration and unity of the congregation, we want to be not only people who simply fill out tasks, but who are able to help to plan strategically, who are also able to give us this service in communication and strategic planning regarding communications. We can already give some concrete examples for these different formation programs. The service can count with the collaboration of the communication service. The Service of Communications can bring strategies in order to be able to reach all the different audiences in public. And for that, it's important that from the very first phases of the distinct initiatives of formation, the communication service would have to be working together with the service of formation, congregational service, in order to accomplish our mandate, since this includes, as was indicated previously, the formation in communication. And so the mission service can count with in order to send messages
relevantes para la congregación,
as well as relevant themes, for example, climate change or finances.
En comunicación. Se deberá trabajar además en conjunto para la elaboración del presupuesto, comunicados
and communicating official communiques and other elements of the sort. These are only some examples, specific examples of the collaborative work that we are already seeing. Thank you very much.
Okay, to conclude, we would like to comment briefly on what our immediate and long-term plans are. We will continue to meet by Zoom twice a month, but we will also meet face-to-face in Montreal, probably before the general chapter this summer. Following our mandate, we will focus on the creation of a proposed congressional directory on communications and on the proposal for a formation plan for communications. At the same time, we will be moving forward on a proposed communications plan that will specifically guide the Congressional Communications Service. We will do this by seeking the best ways to achieve the specific objectives already described, by thinking strategically about the different audiences to be reached, and by considering what the means of communications to be used will be. This way, we will make the best use of the gifts already present in the staff and sisters who collaborate in communications. This communications plan may include a plan for the congregation's social media preference, a graphic identity manual, and a crisis communications plan, among other plans and programs. Thank you for your attention. We look forward to collaborating with you in the future, and God bless.
No, the first slide is the vision, and if you want to take it as that's good. Very good. The vision for the Congregational Continuing Formation Service is very much like the vision of the other services in some ways. We've come together, and what it looks to me is that we're all in sync with the vision. It may be worded differently for each of the services, but we certainly, listening to the first two reports, I can see very much that we're one in this. So the vision for the formation service is to unify and ensure the coherence of continuing formation across the congregation that will enable ongoing transformation and conversion among the sisters in their journey toward the total and unconditional gift of self to God. It's inspired by our charism and mission. It also addresses the assessed needs and creatively integrates the values of the community, being participatory, holistic, systemic, inclusive, international, intercultural, interdependent, and intergenerational. And in other services, they spoke of other values, humility, simplicity, etc. And it provides a grounded and multidisciplinary approach to programs that enable us to deepen our understanding and practice of the congregation's religious apostolic values and commitments as reflected in the constitutions and rules: compassion, communion, integral ecology, justice, and peace. We have already, could we just go back to that first slide? We have already begun to assess needs and prioritize what the sisters wanted. And so somebody else will speak to that on another slide. Slide number 2, Josie. This is the mandate. We're mandated as a continuing formation service to take actions towards making concrete the vision of this service, such as to plan, formulate, and implement programs in close collaboration with the other congregational services, namely mission, finance, and communication. I think that's a good thing that we're talking together, and it's written down here in our mandate, how we would do that. To coordinate the assessment of ongoing formation needs and practices across the congregation. This is a work in progress. We started with a survey to try to get the needs, but we have to just continue in doing that as we move along, because those things can change from month to month or year to year. The third is to utilize and make available and ensure the circulation of ongoing formation resources: CRC, LCWR, UISG, CLAR, WPC, and Family of Vincent. We'll speak more about that in the other slides. But already in the communication and mission, we've already spoken about this. It just says to me, we really are one in this. The services are really different services in a way, but we are one in the way we are going to live them, communicate them, and plan for the future. Number 4, to tap into the expertise, education, and skill training of the sisters related to specific topics. To periodically assess the program. To regularly provide an update to the intermediary circle leadership teams and the entire congregation. To be fully responsible and accountable to the general leadership team in the exercise of this mandate. To identify continuing formation programs available within the intermediary circle that could be made available with interpretation to the whole congregation. And one of the things that we are looking at is we spend time reviewing resources provided by the different associations of CRC, LCWR, etc. It's a lot of reading to try to figure out what is it that we could be able to do. And the other thing is we're trying to find information that are already in the 3 languages, so that work doesn't have to be translated, interpreted. So we're trying to find those things to communicate that to the sisters. The challenge, of course, is to keep the readings going, keep on doing the readings, giving attention to immediate needs. We had a plan to do something, and then there was the delegation to Rome. So then we said, okay, let's do something about that, to communicate that, and we did that via Providence Life. So as things come up, we want to be au courant, as we say, up to date, but also we have some plans for later on that we need to look at. And these are the members of our Congregational Continuing Formation Service. And I would like to just make a comment. I'm not more about their education or their background, but what I see happening as we collaborate together. We really are a very good team, very good collaboration. We share our ideas freely. We provide feedback that's very helpful and keeps us moving forward. Merci Christ is very interested in continuing formation for the congregation. That connects with her work in formation in Haiti. Liz likes to learn, and she loves to explore resources on the internet. Very helpful for a continuing formation service to try to find the kinds of articles that would be helpful and of interest to the sisters. For myself, ideas come as we are in conversation. And I need to feel that the work we are doing is something that the sisters can connect with. So the quality of what we want to communicate is something very practical. We send Josie the material for translation, distribution under Providence Life, secretarial services, minutes. She provides those things for us. Karen is great in providing information regarding ongoing formation sources, UISG, YouTube, very helpful. And she is helpful in providing those things, and that gives us a little more work and try to catch up to all of those resources that she's suggesting that we could look into. Both Karen and Josie are great for editing, bringing more clarity to the document. We have found that to be very helpful. So thank you very much. And this is our team. So next will be Merci Christ.
So the next one will be Merci Christ. So I will continue. In 2021, the team of the service started its work. We had a few meetings in 2021, and our first meeting took place on October 25. And our first task consisted in collecting information on continuing formation. On November 20th, we sent a letter to the various local communities inviting them to respond to questions which we hoped would help us better understand the realities, experiences, and needs expressed and the resources of the congregation. After that, we collected all the replies to this letter, and this document served as a starting point to establish the priorities and plan the service of continuing formation. So here are the meetings we had in 2022. In January, we examined the compilation of responses received from the local communities of the congregation and shared what came out of it. These replies really helped us to organize the planning programs and the activities of continuing formation of the congregation. In the month of February, we had a discussion on the priorities which came out of the questions, for example, governance, racism, the wish to live a congregational retreat and plan its first presentation, to choose the subject and the contact person, resource person. We also examined the way in which the program could be co-sponsored by two services, congregational services, for instance, like the government's model, and as you've heard earlier, there are some persons who spoke who have a connection to our service. The resources which could be made available to the congregation were also treated, because we received quite a bit of resources, information from Sister Karen also. In the month of March, we had a Zoom meeting on February 24th. It was like a preparatory meeting regarding the new governance model, and it was facilitated by Sisters Joe Badali and Teresa Maya. We felt that we needed more clarity regarding this new governance model. The information letter V Providence of March 24th made available to the sisters the video of the meeting, including the responses to the questions which had been asked. We hope that this document will contribute to deepen our understanding of this new governance model, because we received a lot of questions during the meeting and after the meeting, and people needed more clarifications. Then we sent through the Continuing Information Service an article in Providence Live regarding the resources in preparation of the meetings which will be held on March 28th and April 1st in Rome between Pope Francis and the delegation of First Nations of Canada. And we also had a meeting regarding these subjects.
So this would be Liz that would be giving comments on on this slide.
Liz, you're muted.
There, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so then the next meeting dates that we've set, or some of the next meeting dates that we've sent, are Monday, May 16th and Monday, June 13th. And one thing that we're considering, and the date would be, the date we were thinking about is September 27th, the Feast of St. Vincent de Paul, to have a retreat day on the spirituality of Blessed Emily Gamelin and the spirituality of St. Vincent de Paul, and what would be valuable for us to live today. That was one of the desires that was mentioned in that survey. The sisters had mentioned they would like a retreat. So, and attention will be given to further deepening our understanding of the new model of governance after reviewing the video of the prototype gathering and answers to questions in the chat rooms, so that we'd be thinking about how to explore that. And also the Women of Providence, Justice workshop on the doctrine of discovery. We had publicized that, and some of us have watched that. And in fact, this past Monday, it was available thanks to our congregation in translation. So for those to hear in French and in Spanish. And then, as it says there, detailed plans and priorities for 2023 and 2024 will be set to align with the general chapter orientations. So kind of have to wait for that. And the way we do this is using Zoom technology for conferences, retreats, and sessions. The sisters seem to enjoy the use of Zoom, and also to make use of Providence Life, the electronic resources and internet links on relevant topics, and printed resources for reflection, sharing on specific topics by the local communities. And as you can see there, I think they've already been mentioned, we have available a variety of resources, the LCWR, the CRC, the Union of General Religious. That's the best one really in terms of offering translated documents. So I think that's about it for us. And then the last, I have prayed that you may always love the poor, and that the peace and unity may always be with you.
And I think that last slide speaks about contemplation and prayer, a service and community. So it fits in with what we have already heard from the other services.
I would be leading that position.
Hello, Roland.
Hello, je vais parler en français.
Okay, thank you.
I will speak French. I will start, and then Claudette Leroux can cover the mandate, and Anne-Marie Baudouin will also cover a part. So we have the Congregational Finance Services, which is composed of persons with namely good experience in financial administration and canonical and civil structures of religious congregations. Our members, we have Claudette Leroux, Provincial Council Treasurer, and Hemstock, the Provincial Leader of Holy Angels, but she was the formerly Provincial Treasurer, and Marie Baudouin, a Daughter of Wisdom, Provincial Council Treasurer, a former General Treasurer in Rome for quite a number of years, Mr. David Nazius, Provincial Treasurer of Western United States, Mr. Robert Bellil, who has worked a lot with religious communities and is consultant in financial administrative strategies, and myself. This congregational service is intended to support, guide, and supervise the financial services in all circles of the administration, and also to support the mission, pay attention to the legal aspects, and protect the patrimony of the congregation. In Chapter 8 of our Constitutions and Rules, we are reminded of the following. The temporal goods of the congregation are above all of the service of the mission. Those entrusted with the administration of temporal goods are called to responsible stewardship. Responsible stewardship is motivated on the one hand by issues of justice and on the other hand by the concern for the common good and for the longevity of the congregation. Particular care is to be exercised, therefore, to ensure that congregational resources support enterprises which are respectful of those who are poor, that foster a healthy environment, and engage in ethical practices. While meeting the community members' needs, the sisters will look for ways to share these goods with others, especially with those who are powerless or poor. Claudette, please, for the mandate. So the Congregational Finance Services is mandated to work towards achieving the vision expressed in the transforming governance model. The General Treasurer forwards the services recommendations to the General Leadership Team and, if necessary, to the International Financial Administration Committee. Its duties, then, are the duties. Support and guide the finance departments of all the financial and judicial administration circles, local, intermediary, and congregational of the congregation, as well as the IFAC. Develop a framework of structures and financial legal operating procedures for the establishment of intermediary entities, taking into account consultations with sisters and intermediary and congregational circle leadership teams, and present this project to the leadership teams of the different circles for discussion, modification, and approval. Thirdly, make suggestions to the IFAC regarding more flexible and simplified methods of operation, taking into account the administrative and legal requirements of the various countries, as well as sound organizational management practices, while prioritizing the promotion of a spirit of unity throughout the congregation. Fourthly, collaborate and provide the necessary information to the mission, communication, and continuing formation services, as well as to the different leadership circles of the congregation. Provide information and recommendations to the various leadership teams regarding new initiatives. Provide a training program, a formation training program in financial administration and corporate structures to interested sisters, and establish a formation and succession plan for treasurers of intermediary entities. Review the financial situation of each of the entities in the intermediary as well as the congregational circle, and provide appropriate observations and recommendations to the congregational leadership team, taking into account the responsibility towards the works in order to ensure financial equity throughout the congregation. At all times, oversee the financial and legal aspects and protect the patrimony of the congregation, while ensuring priority is given to the service of the mission and the support of the members of the congregation. Accountability and mutual collaboration. The Congregational Financial Service Team reports regularly to the Congregational Leadership Team. It maintains open and transparent communication with the intermediary leadership teams and the treasurers of the various circles of the congregation. Each year, an assembly of the members of the Congregational Circle Services meet to identify common directions and various ways of working together, and to share the accomplishments of the previous year. Now I will talk about our work plan and methodology. The Finance Service held its first meeting on March 17, 2022 via the Zoom platform. In order to become familiar with the current situation of the community, Before the meeting, the members were invited to review the following documents: Congregational structure, proposed model of governance, which elaborates on the spirit and the expectations of local communities, the role and duties of the intermediary circle, as well as the congregational circle, which includes the 4 services: mission, communication, continued formation, and finance, as well as the mandate of the finance service. We also had the opportunity of looking at the canonical and civil organization charts of the congregation. We also saw the demographic projections by province and age group from 2017 to 2042. And we also looked at the document entitled Transformation Process of the Governance Structure of the Congregation, which is a summary of the journey of the members of the congregation from 2015 to date. So the way we proceeded, during the meeting, the participants reviewed various documents and had the opportunity to provide their observations, to ask for clarifications, and to share their experiences, comments, and/or recommendations. This governance transformation exercise is aimed at implementing a model better adapted to our reality, allowed for a series of meetings of the members of the community who could thus exchange around their values, their visions, and their aspirations for the whole of the congregation. These multiple gatherings have fostered in each one the spirit of unity, communion, collaboration, mutual support, and a deeper knowledge of each other. The realities of interculturality, interdependence, intergenerationality, and internationality were emphasized. It is as a result of this transformation process that the 4 congregational services were formed in 2021 and begun their procedures. In February of 2022, during a congregational gathering, the general leadership team presented a prototype of the intermediary circle in order to open discussions. The suggested prototype included 2 groupings inside the intermediary circle. The discussions led to a questioning of whether it would be more appropriate to go directly to a single intermediary circle. For the finance service, it is essential to dwell on the role and functions of administrative services to support the unity, the life, and the ministries of the sisters in the different circles. Preliminary work was done by the International Finance Administration Committee at its meeting of the summer of 2021 in order to identify the administrative functions of the leadership teams and the administrative centers in the different governance circles. This approach provided a basic plan for the finance service to review. Then we looked together at the civil organization chart. This chart shows that the congregation currently manages 40 corporations. It has 12 for Emily Gamelin Province, 7 for Holy Angels, 14 for Bernard de Morin, 3 for Mother Joseph, and 4 for the general administration, including that of Fonds Providence. In short, 29 corporations are for the operation of institutional works, while the other 11 are for the community fund. Although the provinces have become aware of the cumbersome nature of the management of the works and are reflecting on it, it remains difficult to take concrete action to lighten the responsibility of the community, either by developing structures whereby the community would be released from them, or by taking steps to divest itself of them. Yet, this step is necessary when we take into consideration the decrease in the number of members in the congregation. When we look at demographic projections, we see that as of January 1, 2022, the congregation was composed of 359 members, including perpetual vows and novices, and predict that in 5 years, there will be 251 members. It has a decrease of 108 members. decrease of 30%, and that in 10 years' time, there will only be 191 members. That is a 47% decrease in comparison with 2022. In 10 years, there will be 99 sisters of 80 years and older and 92 sisters under 80. If the projection of new members is realized, the vast majority of new members are expected to come from Haiti. Currently, the sisters occupying leadership positions are distributed as follows. 50% of sisters are older than 75, 25% are between 55 and 66, and 25% are under 50. It is noted that it is difficult to find sisters to hold leadership positions or to sit on the boards of directors of the various corporations. I invite Sister Anne-Marie. So, in challenges and actions to be taken, although the congregation has begun its transformation process in April of 2015, the changes have only been translated into action in the last year. The ground is ripe for moving to concrete action now, even if it means the congregation will have to make adjustments later.
There was two English in our...
Je continue. Il y a beaucoup de corporations à gérer par les équipes de leadership et l'implication des sœurs a diminué de beaucoup.
And the sisters' engagement has diminished, especially regarding the works. And the finance service is suggesting to be able to diminish or bring down the number of corporations that would be under the direct responsibility of the community in order to be able to have a specific plan with deadlines to be able to follow. Without that action, it would be difficult without this action, it would be virtually impossible for the members of the congregation to converge on unity, simplification of structures, and the desire to lighten the burden and responsibility in response to current and future realities. With respect to the community fund corporations, the finance service will propose a revision of the corporate bylaws to address emerging realities. With the presence of sisters in several countries, in order to respect civil laws and immigration rules, it will probably be necessary to maintain at least one corporation in each of the countries where the Sisters of Providence are established. The finance service intends to provide guidance and support to the administrative centers of the intermediary circle and the congregation in order to further simplify structures and procedures. This service will provide streamlined structures and the establishment of a competent work team in these administrative centers. The service has an accompanying role, for example, to present the facts to the leadership teams and local communities and help them move towards simplification, adapt to new ways of doing things, and working in collaboration. It will also support the congregation establishing a formation program for leadership and administration of the congregation. And as the works represent a major challenge in this transformation process, the finance service wonders if it would not be beneficial for the entities to reflect together on the possibilities of transforming the structures of the works, namely to figure out who will manage them in the future with the objective of encouraging one another and of a unified reflection for the common good of the congregation. So the communication to date with the sisters, for the time being, the service has not had the opportunity to exchange communications directly with the sisters of the congregation. However, there have been several exchanges on this subject during the meeting of treasurers and their collaborators, as well as during the meetings of the International-Financial Administration Committee. Now, the discussions focused, among other things, on the impact of the change in structure on the operation of accounting and finance for each of the circles, local, intermediary, and general. And there was a sharing about the need to update the Directory of Administration of Temporal Goods to reflect these governance changes. The Finance Service recognizes that the change in structure involves many challenges and that it is never easy to change the ways of operating that have been beneficial for many years, particularly when it comes to financial administration and legal structures, especially when dealing with multicultural realities and being located in different countries. It is critical that the sisters be consulted and kept informed as changes are implemented. Transparent communication is essential to the success of this transformation. To ensure a healthy transition, the cooperation of all the circles, local, intermediary, and congregational, is required. And one of the Finance Service's objectives is to develop a project for structures and financial and judicial operations that is amenable to the congregation. This Finance Service plans to work closely with the International Financial Administration Committee and leadership teams in developing more flexible and streamlined operating procedures while taking into account the administrative and legal requirements of various countries and sound organizational management practices, and emphasizing a spirit of unity and collaboration throughout the congregation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And somebody will send out all the slides to each of us, right, as well?
Yes.
Thanks, Jesse. Thank you.
Elizabeth, I put
Thank
something
you.
in the chat for you.
Muchas gracias. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Gracias,
Bye, Betty.
Ingrid.
Bye,
Gracias,
everyone.
Aliumka.
Thank you.